There's something chilling about a mystery that remains unsolved, something that lingers in the back of your mind, unanswered. Despite all of our advancements in science, technology, and forensics, there are still cases out there that leave even the best investigators baffled. Today, we're diving into some of the craziest unsolved cases of all time, stories that defy logic, leave trails of questions, and continue to haunt the world to this day. Let's begin. Case number one, the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines flight MH370. On March 8, 2014, Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 took off from Kuala Lumpur en route to Beijing. Less than an hour into the flight, the aircraft lost contact with air traffic control, and soon after, it vanished from radar entirely. The aircraft had 239 people on board. What followed was one of the most extensive and expensive search efforts in aviation history. Pieces of debris believed to be from the plane have washed up on beaches in the Indian Ocean. But to this day, the main wreckage has never been found. Multiple theories have emerged: hijacking, mechanical failure, even a deliberate act by someone in the cockpit. But without the black box or conclusive evidence, the fate of MH370 remains one of the greatest aviation mysteries ever. Case number two, the Somerton Man. In December 1948, a man was found dead on Somerton Beach in Adelaide, Australia. He had no identification, and all the labels on his clothing had been removed. There were no signs of violence or obvious cause of death. In his pocket was a tiny rolled-up piece of paper with the words Tamam Shud, which means ended or finished in Persian. Investigators later found a book of Persian poetry in a nearby car that seemed to belong to him, and inside that book were strange codes and a phone number. The code has never been fully deciphered, and the man's identity was unknown for decades. Recently, advances in DNA analysis may have uncovered his name, Carl Webb. But his motives, the reason he died, and what the cryptic clues meant are still unsolved. Case number three, the Dyatlov Pass incident. In 1959, 9 experienced hikers disappeared in the Ural Mountains of Soviet Russia. When rescuers found their campsite, they were horrified. The tent had been ripped open from the inside. The hikers had fled into freezing temperatures without proper clothes or shoes. Some bodies showed signs of massive internal injuries, while others had missing eyes and tongues. There were no signs of external wounds consistent with their injuries. The official explanation? A compelling natural force. Theories have ranged from an avalanche to military experiments, infrasound-induced panic, or even paranormal events. To this day, no theory fully explains what happened on that mountain. Case number four, the Hinterkaifeck murders. In 1922, on a remote farmstead in Germany called Hinterkaifeck, 6 members of the Gruber family were brutally murdered with a pickaxe. The strangest part? The killer may have been living in the house with the victims for days before and after the murders. Neighbors reported strange noises and smoke from the chimney in the days following the killings. When investigators arrived, they found the bodies in the barn in the house and evidence that the farm animals had been fed after the murders. Despite many suspects over the years, the identity of the killer remains unknown. Case number 5, the Circleville letters. In 1976, residents of Circleville, Ohio began receiving anonymous, threatening letters. The letters revealed dark secrets and accused people of terrible things. One woman, Mary Gillespie, was targeted most aggressively. Her husband died in a mysterious crash shortly after one letter warned him to stay away from her alleged affair. Eventually, a man named Paul Freshour, Mary's brother-in-law, was convicted and sent to prison. But even while in solitary confinement, letters continued to arrive in Circleville. To this day, no one knows who the real writer was. Paul maintained his innocence until his death. Case number 6, the disappearance of Maura Murray. On February 9, 2004, 21-year-old Maura Murray emailed her professors saying there had been a death in the family and she would be out of class. There was no death. She packed her car, withdrew some money from the ATM, and drove into the snowy White Mountains of New Hampshire. That evening, her car crashed off a rural road. A local resident saw her and offered help, but Maura declined. When police arrived just minutes later, she was gone. No footprints in the snow, no signs of struggle. Years of investigation, TV shows, podcasts, and online sleuths have tried to uncover what happened, but Maura Murray remains missing to this day. Case 7, the Isdal woman. In 1970, the badly burned body of a woman was found in Norway's Isdalen Valley, a place locals called Death Valley due to its dark history. She had multiple fake identities, wigs, and passports. All labels were removed from her clothes. Her fingerprints had been sanded off. The cause of death? Mysterious and likely involving poison. Investigators pieced together her travels, but nothing revealed who she really was or why she was there. Some suspect espionage during the Cold War. Others believe it was a suicide, but the truth remains buried with her. Case number 8, the Sauter children disappearance. On Christmas Eve, 1945, in Fayetteville, West Virginia, the Sauter family home caught fire. 5 of the 10 children were believed to have perished, but their bodies were never found in the ashes. The parents believed the children had been kidnapped. They claimed to have received strange phone calls and saw a ladder missing from the house, later found in a ditch. Sightings of the children were reported across the country. A billboard seeking answers stood for decades, but no resolution ever came. To this day, no one knows what truly happened to the Sauter children. Case number 9, the boy in the box. In 1957, a young boy's body was found in a cardboard box in Philadelphia. He was between 3 and 7 years old, had signs of malnutrition, and had been severely beaten. Despite extensive efforts, including facial reconstruction and national coverage, his identity remained unknown for over 60 years. He became known as America's unknown child. Only recently, using DNA and genealogy, he was identified as Joseph Augustus Zarelli. But the mystery of how and why he died still remains unsolved. Case number 10, the disappearance of Brandon Swanson. In 2008, 19-year-old Brandon Swanson was driving home in Minnesota when his car went off the road. He called his parents around 2 a.m. saying he was okay and walking toward a nearby town. His father stayed on the phone with him for nearly 50 minutes as Brandon described his surroundings. Then suddenly, Brandon said, "Oh, shasht," and the call went dead. His phone never reconnected. Despite massive searches, no trace of Brandon was ever found. The call remains the only clue. Bonus case, the Tamam Shud cipher revisited. Returning briefly to the Somerton man, decades after the case went cold, researchers used modern DNA analysis to identify the man as Carl Webb, an electrical engineer from Melbourne. While this seems like progress, it raises even more questions. Why was he in Adelaide? What was the significance of the Persian poetry and the coded message in the book? Did he take his own life, or was he a victim of foul play? Even with a name, the mystery remains alive. These stories show us how little we sometimes know, even when everything seems within reach. In a world dominated by technology, satellites, and digital tracking, it's easy to forget that some mysteries remain beyond our grasp. Maybe that's what keeps us coming back to these stories, the idea that somewhere out there, the truth still waits to be discovered. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe for more content that dives deep into the world's most intriguing and unexplained cases. And if one of these mysteries stuck with you, let us know in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious.